Good afternoon, distinguished guests, fellow educators, and friends from the SPED sector. My name is Daniel from the Special Education Branch, Ministry of Education, and I will be your MC for today. Thank you for taking the time to join us in witnessing the much anticipated launch of the MOE Special Education Schools Daily Living Skills and Visual Arts Teaching and Learning Syllabuses, developed closely with the support of all our SPED schools. We are excited by our collective efforts to strengthen quality teaching and learning in SPED that will pave the way for stronger design and delivery of special education. Before we begin our program, please allow me to highlight some exciting items that you should have received in the weeks leading up to this launch. Up first, 2 sets of hard copy syllabuses for daily living skills and visual arts should have arrived at your school. In addition to hard copy syllabuses, e-syllabus versions of the daily living skills and visual arts syllabuses are also available to all SPED schools. Next, we are happy to share that specially designed stickers for use in our mobile phone chats have been designed. These stickers help to generate excitement and buzz over our launch, and we hope you can use them when you communicate with your teachers and even students. As part of today's program, we are also joined by distinguished guests who have kindly offered us congratulatory messages. Stay tuned for this special segment. To kickstart today's program, we're delighted to share a launch video to commemorate this special event. Let's sit back and enjoy the video.
Friends from all the special education schools across Singapore, I'm delighted to be with you today to celebrate the launch of the visual arts and daily living skills syllabuses that you have all worked on so hard together with my colleagues here in MOE, with researchers from the National Institute of Education, various organizations and agencies across Singapore. This work, of course, builds on many, many years of efforts in these areas. Congratulations to all of you.
Dear colleagues and friends, allow me to begin with the end in mind. The ultimate goal of SPED is for every student to realize their dreams, to live, learn, and work to the fullest extent achievable. For this to happen, curriculum implementation needs to be coherent, collaborative, child, family, and person-centered. The SPED Daily Living Skills and Visual Arts Teaching and Learning syllabuses aim to provide greater support to schools in curriculum development and implementation. The SPED syllabuses represent the intended curriculum, what is to be taught and learned in order for students to attain the SPED desired living, learning, and working outcomes. To this end, they are aspirational, yet remaining developmentally appropriate. As SPED schools serve a highly diverse student profile, the SPED syllabuses are not intended to be covered. Rather, they need to be translated into school-based curriculum that are accessible and meaningful for the different student profiles served. This implemented curriculum entails customizing of learning content or the scope and sequence. Also, developing clear schemes of work to guide teachers in enacting the curriculum in their classrooms. We are truly grateful to all schools for coming on board this curriculum journey with us. As we roll out the SPED syllabuses, we are looking forward to taking this journey with schools to newer and deeper practices to help our students live meaningfully, learn continuously, and work productively.
My personal belief about teaching daily living skills is to equip my students with self-care skills to lead independent and dignified lives, leisure skills to engage in age-appropriate and meaningful activities that they enjoy, community mobility skills to be active participants and valued contributors in the community. I also believe in partnering families and empowering them with the necessary resources to play an active role in their children's learning at home. The true essence of teaching daily living skills for me is to work collaboratively to maximize the quality of life of the students that we serve.
Visual art in AWA School is off to a refreshed start that requires both new learning as well as unlearning of the teachers. The 4C and the learning objective planted a seed in the teachers towards a change in approach, in that the art is an ongoing process of meaning making. Guided by the 4Es, the visual arts allow students to develop at their own pace and lead our teachers through a shift in practice. We begin trialling segment of the new SPED VA teaching and learning syllabus, first from a very small scale of 2 teachers in 2019 to 8 in 2020. This year, we involve all the 54 classes with a project-based approach. Theme: Unboxing Your Imagination in Term 1. Over the 5 weeks, teachers encourage their students to unleash their imagination through the 4E drivers: exploration, engagement, execution, and expansion with recycled materials and boxes. So a box was no longer a box, but for the students, it became a car, a drum, school bag, canvas, or a hiding place. We are excited about what's ahead and the multiple opportunity to stretch and learn together with our students through the SPED VA teaching and learning syllabus.
Friends, I think you would agree with me that what we want most of all for our students is that they would be understood, they would be welcomed in society and in community. And so I ask you, as you work with them in visual arts and in daily living skills, that you look for opportunities to make connection between our students and other students out there in other schools across Singapore, with their families, extended families, and in the neighborhoods, and invite businesses, other organizations, students from the universities and IHLs, from the schools into your classrooms, and bring your students out to be with them as well.
We hope that the launch video has given you an insight to the exciting learning opportunities that await our students. We are thankful to have the support of distinguished guests today. These guests may serve in different roles, yet they are held together by the shared belief that SPED can make that positive difference to our students. Let us now hear from our distinguished guests who generously send congratulations as well as share words of wisdom on good teaching and learning.
Good afternoon, colleagues and friends from the special education schools, colleagues from here in MOE and also NIE and other agencies. Let me extend my warmest greetings to all of you on this occasion of the launch of the Visual Arts and Daily Living Skills syllabuses today. Developing a curriculum is indeed an important professional responsibility for all of us as educators. With an agreed curriculum and its accompanying pedagogies and assessment principles and practices, we know together what needs to be learnt, how it may be taught and learnt, and how we know learning has taken place. These are fundamental to the education process, so that the students that we work with can learn, grow, and develop. Curriculum planning and development is a very involved process, made more challenging when our students' needs are so diverse. Therefore, I want to commend the teams for the quality professional work that's been expended to develop these teaching and learning syllabuses. I have perused these 2 syllabuses and found them both practical and aspirational, and hope that they will serve you well as important documents to guide all of us as we work together as professionals in special education. Our students deserve nothing less than well-designed and meaningful learning experiences every day. Learning experiences which must contribute to their development of important skills, knowledge, and values. They will help them grow and change their lives for the better. The visual arts bring our students the life-giving means to create, express, and communicate. When students develop daily living skills, they can learn to manage themselves and assess opportunities to contribute to family life and participate in community. The potential for significantly increasing our students' quality of life is what drives all of us. In the months and years ahead, SPED teachers will get to know this syllabus as well as we use them. They will also be involved in developing syllabus for all the other learning domains. I am confident that the syllabuses will get even better as SPED teachers in their communities of practice, within and beyond their schools, keep building their professional expertise. A syllabus is a living thing. It draws from the experiences of teachers and researchers over many years. These syllabuses, likewise, are the product of a long and close working relationship among the SPED schools together with MOE HQ. They are a testament to our enduring partnership and to our shared desire to give our best to our students, and hope that they will serve as important documents to guide our professional work in our SPED schools.
I'm very heartened that MOE SPED has responded to the sector's need for core curriculum resources. This special education syllabus launch has been a long time coming. Besides literacy and numeracy, subjects such as daily living skills, visual arts, and physical wellness are important in enhancing the quality of life of persons with special needs. Daily living skills, the ability to take care of one's independent living tasks such as grooming, commuting, and money management, help one gain access to opportunities in work, living with others, and further learning. Visual arts, like other forms of art such as performing arts, music, help SPED students express themselves, explore, and enjoy other aspects of their surroundings. All students should be exposed to and have access to such content, even if not everyone is gifted and excel in all of the subjects. This SPED syllabus launch is an important launchpad for deeper and more individualized work in lifelong learning. SPED student profiles differ depending on the type of disability and their level of support needs. The success of this curriculum will depend on how key stakeholders such as educators, therapists, and caregivers use it to add value and bring the syllabus to life for our students. I thank everyone who have made this milestone launch possible. Thank you for caring enough to better the quality of education for all of our beloved SPED students. May the education of our special needs community grow from strength to strength.
Many students are talented in visual arts, as can be seen from the artworks featured on the NDP 2020 packs. This arose from our partnership with SPED schools, social service agencies, and the NDP Exco. We have continued this partnership in 2021, which shines a spotlight on the creative potential of our special artists. Our special artists' perspectives and ways of making art are unique and authentic. We are deeply touched by their love and hope for Singapore with their unique gifts. As MOE and SPED schools work to ensure that students can reach their fullest potential through quality education, students' creative talent will be nurtured in a more deliberate manner. I look forward to celebrating their abilities.
Congratulations on the syllabus launch. Great job, MOE. The relationship between curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment is an important one, where curriculum looks at what is to be taught in terms of knowledge and skill. Pedagogy looks at how it's being delivered and taught in terms of methodology. Finally, the third part of it, where assessment comes in, and it looks at determining whether the student, he or she, has learned the content sufficiently. Maybe another way to look at it is where the student sits on a stool with 3 legs, and each of these pillars or 3 legs represent the important part of how syllabus are put together, or syllabi are put together, and how these come together to ensure that the student learning is at its optimum. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fadila, and this is my son Saifullah.
Hi, my name is Saifullah. I am 18 years old. I go to Cerebral Palsy Alliance Singapore School, CPAS.
Saifullah has quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which left him unable to walk and speak clearly. All children, including those with high support needs, are able to learn daily living skills with the help from school and family. For example, it is not easy for children with sensory needs to brush their teeth. Schools can equip families with strategies to minimize the discomfort and practice the skill at home. Hence, today, I'm happy that MOE has worked with the SPED schools to develop the daily living skills, teaching and learning syllabus. Saifullah's teachers also developed his passion for digital art designs using technology such as Apple Keynote. I'm excited that the visual arts teaching and learning syllabus can help to strengthen Saifullah's creativity. Through working closely with school, Saifullah has developed a passion in digital art and participates actively in TLS at home.
Thank you to all our distinguished guests for your congratulatory messages. Next, we have Ms. Melissa Chu, Senior Specialist, Special Education Branch, to give us an introduction to the Daily Living Skills, in short, TLS syllabus. This will be followed by a sharing by Ms. Michelle Chin and Ms. Kan Yuan Ping from Cerebral Palsy Alliance Singapore School, who will share on CPAS's TLS curriculum journey.
Hi, I'm Melissa from Special Education Branch, and I'm excited to be sharing with you the highlights of the first 2021 Special Education Daily Living Skills Teaching and Learning Syllabus, or DLS TLS for short. This syllabus is made possible because of your support. A big thank you to SPED school leaders and staff, external partners, and parents for working closely with us. We would especially want to acknowledge the DLS workgroup members for your contribution to this teaching and learning syllabus. Here are some things that you can expect to find in the DLS TLS. In the introductory chapter, you will learn about the philosophy, aims, and the key considerations of DLS TLS. These are important features because they look into why we value DLS in a student's growth. The next chapter presents the content. Here you will find the syllabus scope and sequence and guidance on developing a school-based DLS curriculum. Chapter 3 covers pedagogical considerations and practices, including the use of e-pedagogy in DLS. Chapter 4 includes the approaches to assessment in DLS and assessment tools that teachers can use. Chapter 5 highlights the importance of family partnerships and collaboration among staff in the teaching and learning of DLS. In this syllabus, DLS refers to a broad range of functional skills needed across everyday settings, such as at home, school, community, and work. The DLS-TLS is anchored on the philosophy that DLS empowers students to be active participants in their daily lives. DLS encourages autonomy and is vital in enabling our students to lead dignified lives through meaningful participation in home, community, and productive activities for a better quality of life. The DLS-TLS aims to deliver the SPED living, learning, and working outcomes by equipping students with functional skills that will enable them to care for themselves and their well-being and empower them to participate and exercise greater independence at home, in the community, and in productive activities, including employment. This is achieved through these 5 key areas. Self-care, where our students learn to maintain good personal hygiene, modesty, and a well-groomed appearance. Health, where our students learn to care for their physical, emotional, and mental health and how to respond in medical situations. Leisure, our students are able to choose and participate in meaningful activities for enjoyment and to maintain social connectedness. Home living, our students learn to help with household chores and to stay safe and connected at home. And finally, community and mobility, where our students learn to navigate and access community services and facilities safely and responsibly. I'd like to share some key considerations that underpin the planning, development, and implementation of the syllabus. First, DLS skills should be functional, so they are purposeful and meaningful to the students. It should also prepare students for the future. Trends and developments that impact our society, such as Singapore's goals towards a smart nation, were considered as we shape the syllabus. It should also equip students with skills to be active participants in their community. The syllabus is also anchored on the strong belief that our students' immediate and extended families play a crucial role in DLS to provide sustained opportunities to generalize and maintain the skills at home and across various settings. Finally, learning age-appropriate skills and activities is important, especially as students grow older, to help them participate in and integrate with their peers at school and in the community. The learning objectives are organized according to the 5 key areas mentioned earlier. The LOs are pegged to 4 progressive levels, spanning school entry to graduation. This sequence takes into consideration what students of the same age could be expected to be able to learn and do. As far as possible, we encourage schools to strive to realize as many LOs as possible across the 4 levels, taking into consideration your students' profiles. More guidance on developing the school-based DLS curriculum is provided in the chapter. You will also find examples that further illustrate the LOs and teaching considerations, such as ideas for adaptations. The next chapter is on pedagogy. Some important pedagogical considerations are offered in this chapter that guide planning and delivery of DLS lessons, such as opportunities for generalization and maintenance, function over form, and authentic settings and activities. This chapter also highlights the use of research-based pedagogical practices in DLS, such as systematic instruction, explicit instruction, and visual strategies. You will also find examples of how e-pedagogy can be used to enhance students' DLS learning experiences. Formative assessment in DLS is an ongoing process where teachers and students check in on what students know and how they can perform better. Assessment is vital in DLS as students, teachers, and families need information to guide teaching and supports to ensure that students are ready to function at a more autonomous level, safely and independently. The syllabus highlights performance assessment as being highly applicable for this purpose and should be regularly used in the assessment of DLS to find out how well students are able to perform the skills in real-life settings. You will find some examples of performance-based assessments in Chapter 4. Partnership with families and collaboration among educators is especially important in DLS. Beyond acquiring the skills at schools, our students need to learn to generalize and maintain the skills at home and in a community. In Chapter 5, you will find strategies to foster closer collaboration with families and suggestions on ways that you can work with colleagues in the teaching and learning of DLS. Lastly, amongst the annexes, you will find that Annex A provides guiding questions to help teachers reflect and systematically plan for DLS lessons. It also includes 2 lesson exemplars developed by the DLS workgroup to contextualize these considerations. I hope the DLS TLS resonates with you and you're enthused to start reading it. We look forward to continue this close partnership with schools as we move into the next stage of interpreting and implementing the DLS TLS. Over time, we will review the syllabus so that the knowledge and skills, as well as teaching and learning practices, can stay relevant for our SPED students and empower them to exercise greater independence at home and in a community for a better quality of life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle, the first IC for DLS at CPAS. Today, we are going to present the CPAS journey in developing the DLS curriculum. Our team consists of 6 members and they are all teachers from various programs. We meet weekly to have domain meetings to work on the DLS curriculum. The following is the outline of our presentation. We will be sharing the underpinning principles that guide us in the DLS curriculum planning for our students. We will also share what we have planned so far on the implementation of the DLS curriculum, resource done by the DLS team, families' involvement in HBL, staff feedback, key learning points and challenges. We will also share a bit on what we plan to do moving forward. Our school's mission is to equip students with a holistic education to live meaningfully, learn continuously, and work productively. Since this year, our functional program has embarked on the implementation of the functional program curriculum. One of the goals in the functional program is that students will develop independence in activities of daily living. The DLS guiding principles in CPAS is to equip students with a range of functional skills from taking care of self and their well-being, the living environment, and navigating in the community. We want the students to be successful in school, at home, and in the community through our school-wide Trans-D approach and using assistive technology as an enabler. The objective of the Trans-D approach is to develop teamwork amongst therapists, school teachers, and parents. It is to promote the integration of services and programs in school. We hope to build on learning opportunities across different settings and support the families to embed learning in daily routine-based activities. Our students' profile ranges from 7 to 18 years old. They basically fall under the junior years and senior years. Most students have multiple disability, including physical challenges. So DLS at CPAS is implemented at the junior level, focusing on introductory and basic skills. At the senior level, students will have more hands-on activities of higher difficulty level as compared to the junior years. Since 2018, I was involved in the DLS work group in co-constructing the DLS philosophy and scope and sequence. It has then provided me directions in developing the DLS at CPAS. This chart shows home living scope and sequence. We have also planned the scope and sequence for the community mobility and the self-care subdomains. Learning outcomes are then taken from the scope and sequence to craft our scheme of work. We have a guided scheme of work for teachers who are teaching the different levels. With the scheme of work as a guide, teachers will plan weekly lesson plans for the class, catering to the student's profile. Teachers will also embed their IEP and ITP goals within the DLS lessons. For example, in this lesson, communication goals for some students are embedded in a community mobility lesson, which involves the use of maps. In addition, teachers will evaluate the lesson goals weekly. This evaluation will help students to track their progress and learning. Since this year, we have embarked on assessment for the learning domains. Assessment for DLS is conducted termly, focusing on specific skills taught during the term. The assessment is done in an authentic environment. For example, to assess the skill of using a toaster, the teacher must observe if students are able to use the appliances in a safe manner. In terms of infrastructure, Life Skills Room 1 and 2 have undergone an upgrade with smart home technology and living. This is to enable students to experience independent living and self-autonomy. The purpose of the upgrade is to create a more conducive and inclusive area for teaching and learning of DLS. Some of the smart home devices include voice command features to control electrical appliances, smart doorbells, switches, and sensor taps. We hope to share the features of these rooms with students and their family to increase their awareness about the potential of using technology to aid in independent living for persons with disability.
Hi, I'm Yuan Ping, the second IC of DLS at CPAS. The DLS team provides resources for the teachers based on the SOW each term. Such resources include PowerPoint slides and demonstration videos. These are some examples of the resources. This video is a demo video teaching students how to make ham and cheese sandwich, which was used during our HBL as well. Other resources include the use of social stories for self-care skills, task analysis, and visual recipes for food preparation. Class teachers can modify and adapt these resources to accommodate to their students' needs. We also have switch-enabled appliances which are available for students with physical challenges. For example, if students with physical challenges are unable to turn the blender on with their fingers, they can use a switch to operate a blender by just pressing down on it. We also use assistive technologies such as iPad or tablet, which can help students with communication challenges better assess the lesson. AT enhances students' learning and help teachers to deliver the lessons more effectively. Adaptive devices are also made available for students' use. For example, a rocker knife can help students who uses predominantly one hand to cut fruits in a safe manner. Adaptive spoons and cutleries are also available for students with limited hand functions to feed themselves and prepare food as independently as possible. We believe that families play an important role in helping the students generalize the skills that they have learned in school. The DLS resources are also shared with the parents during home-based learning to carry out the activities. In this case, we provided demonstration video for sandwich making, and we can see parents' involvement from this video.
We put the bread on the plate, and then we butter it, and then it's done.
What about the cheese and the ham?
Cheese and ham, then it's done. Bye-bye.
And then so we put a cheese and a ham on our bread, then we need to make a
cheese sandwich.
Okay, and then we take the cheese sandwich and what do we do with it then? Where do we put it?
On the plate.
We want to make it hot. What do we do?
Just make it hot.
In the?
Microwave.
What? Not the microwave. The?
Toaster.
Yeah. And then when the toaster's done, what can we do?
We can like
We've toasted it. Then we can?
eat it.
Yes.
For senior level, we hope that they will gain independence during the HBL by using a checklist. The parents are also involved as they have to sign on the checklist after their child is done with their task. Some parents even send videos of their child in action. One key challenge for us is to address the diverse needs of our students. In CPAS, we have students with moderate to severe physical challenges. Some questions that we want to explore is how do we teach DLS for students with severe physical challenges? Are we aiming for partial classroom participation or exploration of the learning objective? Is there a need to teach students with limited mobility how to do household chores, knowing that they physically will not be able to do it independently? The team is considering to develop a separate scope and sequence to cater to this profile group. Moving forward, we want to improve on the process of our termly assessment to give our teachers more guidelines on the how and what to assess. We also want to start measuring and tracking the students' progress, and lastly, to align our school's DLS with the SPED DLS teaching and learning syllabus.
Thank you, Melissa, Michelle, and Yuan Ping for the useful sharing. Up next, Ms. Yvonne Chia from the Visual Arts team from Special Education Branch will give us an introduction to the Visual Arts, in short VA, syllabus. Following that, Ms. Karen Zainal from APSN Tanglin School will be sharing with us Tanglin School's Visual Arts curriculum journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yvonne from Special Education Branch, Ministry of Education, and it is my pleasure to introduce the highlights of the Special Education Visual Arts Teaching and Learning Syllabus, in short, the VA TLS. We hope you're just as excited as we are for the launch of the VA TLS. Here are some highlights you can expect to find. The first chapter is an introduction to arts education and visual arts in particular, including the philosophy and key considerations of visual arts. Chapter 2, Content, presents the visual arts framework, learning objectives, and learning content. Chapter 3, Pedagogy, introduces pedagogical practices, e-pedagogy, and art resources for SPED schools. Chapter 4, Assessment, includes assessment in SPED as well as in visual arts. And in the annexes, unit plan and lesson plan samples are provided for your use. Allow me now to walk you through the syllabus document. The VA TLS is anchored on a philosophy, which is that visual arts plays an important role in our everyday life. Not just in helping students to appreciate beauty and be part of art making, visual arts for SPED students also allows them to access opportunities to develop skills and knowledge in a wide array of art forms. Through these art forms, students are developed holistically as they communicate, think critically, create and collaborate with community partners. Also in this chapter are the key considerations that underpin the planning, development and implementation of the VA TLS. First, visual arts education should be process-focused because a finished art product doesn't necessarily demonstrate the student's knowledge, skills, and creativity. Second, a visual arts curriculum should be holistic, nurturing the heart, head, and hands. Finally, visual arts lessons should be developmentally appropriate and consider students' developmental readiness, preferences, interests, and strengths. Moving on to Chapter 2 on Content, which introduces the visual arts framework, the fan-like structure. This framework guides the teaching and learning of visual arts in SPED and has 3 main parts. At the heart of the framework are the SPED living, learning, and working outcomes, the key areas known as the 4C, and the artistic processes known as the 4E. Let's look in greater detail at the 4C, which unpacked the goals of the Visual Arts TLS. The first C is for the communication of choices, ideas, experiences, thoughts, and emotions through art making. The second C is for creativity, as students create something original and meaningful using their imagination and innovation. Critical thinking is the cognitive engagement of students when they observe, describe, interpret, and analyze while art making, and when they recognize and solve problems in the process. Finally, Students collaborate when they share ideas and interact within the school and with community partners, thereby establishing relationships, socializing, and even advocating for themselves. As for the 4E, these are the artistic processes that students will experience during their visual arts education. Students will explore artworks, visual qualities, media, and tools, engage in the process of art making, execute ideas, and expand on their plans and ideas. Experiencing these processes, the 4E, will enable students to achieve the 4C. Each of the 4C are further unpacked into learning objectives, or LO. On the screen, we have a snapshot of one set of LO for one of the 4C. The LO are progressive and tiered according to 4 levels of progression. They guide teachers in crafting learning goals that are achievable, yet aspirational. We invite all teachers to look at the LO in greater detail for all the 4C. Also in Chapter 2 is the learning content of visual arts. One key component of this is context. As you can see from the extract here, the TLS identifies focus areas, guiding questions, and possible examples of themes or topics that can be used when crafting unit plans and planning lesson activities. The second component is visual qualities, which students can use in their artwork to communicate meaning. In the TLS is a list of elements of art, such as line, shape, color, etc., and a list of principles of design, such as pattern, scale, balance, etc. Another component of learning content is art forms and media. One portion of the list, showing the range of art forms and media, is reflected here. We hope these art forms will trigger teachers to be creative on how they can be used to engage the students in, according to student profiles and resources. The next chapter is on pedagogy and introduces a curated list of pedagogical practices that are particularly useful either to the SPED context or to visual arts. The references to the original literature are also provided for further reading as desired. Another significant part of this chapter is on e-pedagogy, which explores how teachers can make use of technology to enhance their students' learning experiences. There are also examples of using e-pedagogy in visual arts lessons, unpacking the intended functions of technology and the potential impacts on the learning experience. We hope these examples can provide some inspiration for you to infuse e-pedagogy in your own lessons as well. As we know, it takes a village to raise and teach a child. So rounding off this chapter is a list of art resources that SPED schools can consider to enhance their visual arts pedagogy. This includes partnerships such as the Artists in Schools scheme and partnerships with mainstream schools. And the Visual Arts TLS includes a list of mainstream schools with a visual arts niche. Also included are lists of potential institutional and business partners that SPED schools can consider. The assessment chapter explores the fundamental role of assessment, as well as address central questions to assessment specific to the SPED context. The purpose of assessment is to improve the craft of teachers and empower students to become more engaged learners. As such, assessment is a process that involves both teachers and students. Students shouldn't be regarded as passive learners, and good assessment practices can motivate students to take ownership of their learning. The TLS also emphasizes the importance of formative assessment in the SPED context, because it allows for student agency in the learning process. Also explored is assessment in visual arts in particular. Assessment provides evidence on what the students have learnt during the artistic process, which informs teachers on how to support students' learning and development. The TLS also suggests important considerations for teachers when planning assessment in visual arts. Also provided are the key assessment components that a balanced assessment approach should cover, as well as descriptions of suggested tools for a performance-based approach. Lastly, among the annexes, you will find unit plan samples contributed by SPED schools, which illustrate how to put together the various aspects of content, pedagogy, and assessment in the earlier chapters. There will also be a lesson plan sample, again contributed by a SPED school, which also contains an example of using e-pedagogy in a visual arts lesson. You will also find a number of assessment samples, such as examples of a checklist, a rating scale, a self-evaluation form, and rubrics, which teachers can customize and use according to their student profiles and needs. This rounds up the highlights of the Visual Arts TLS, and we hope we have piqued your interest and you will go on to interact with, interpret, and implement the syllabus in the teaching and learning of visual arts. We look forward to exploring the TLS in greater depth together in the upcoming sessions of syllabus interpretation and implementation. On behalf of the Visual Arts team in the Special Education branch, we extend our sincere gratitude to all the SPED teachers who have supported us in this journey of developing the Visual Arts TLS. Without your help and support, the syllabus would not have come into fruition. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Karen and I'm a teacher at APSN Tanglin School. I'm excited to share with you our journey in implementing the visual arts teaching and learning syllabus in our art lessons over the past year. It's been a fruitful one for both my students and I hope this sharing will be for you as well. Let me begin with a brief outline. I will start by setting the context for the visual arts in our school, the planning stage prior to implementation, the process of implementation itself, the assessment of students' learning, and finally, the conclusion. Tanglin School is a secondary school under APSN that provides academic and vocational education. Our students range from 13 to 16 years old and are diagnosed with mild intellectual disability, corresponding to an IQ range of 50 to 70. Some have co-occurring conditions, such as autism spectrum disorder and Down syndrome. The students at Tanglin School experience art through various platforms. We have an arts curriculum for lower secondary students, where each student participates in one form of visual art and one form of performing arts per year. Presently, our school is reviewing how visual arts lessons can carry on into the upper secondary level. Students also explore the arts through CCA, school-wide assembly programs, and participation in both internal and external competitions. A typical art lesson would look something like this. It's conducted once a week in a dedicated art room, facilitated by one lead teacher with a visual arts background, for a mixed group of 10 to 20 students from different classes. During art making and discussions, students work in groups of 4 with one supporting teacher per group. Now, let's move into how we plan for the implementation of the Visual Arts Teaching and Learning Syllabus, or TLS for short. We began planning with clear aspirations in mind. What did we ultimately want our students to gain through art lessons? We want our students to see themselves as artists, to overcome the fear of making mistakes, and to become confident in exploring, experimenting, and expressing their ideas through art. We also want them to recognize their peers as artists, to respect different perspectives, ideas, and styles apart from their own. To work towards those aspirations, we planned each lesson with accessibility and achievability in mind. For example, the first unit began with abstract styles, which reduced the barrier for students who find art intimidating. In this image, you see an example of abstract art created by beginning Sec 1 artists, inspired by Jackson Pollock. As students grew in confidence, they picked up more technical skills and created more complex art, such as what you see in this image, Sec 2 artists' dual portraits portraying different emotions. Beyond lesson plans, the culture in the art room should reflect the same values. Through intentional conversations during art making, teachers could affirm and encourage students' unique ideas and processes. Another example is an artists' conference, a routine at the end of each art lesson where students would take turns to share about their creation and affirm their peers. All in all, we wanted a culture that promotes both self-confidence and respect for others. Now, I will share the process of implementing these changes in our school. The Visual Arts TLS encourages us to design lessons around 4 E's: exploration, engagement, execution, and expansion. How did we apply these artistic processes practically? To encourage students to explore, this meant designing non-threatening, fun exploratory activities that invite them to experiment with new media, tools, or techniques. For example, here, a group of Sec 1 students are experimenting with different ways to create lines on paper. Beyond using a pencil or brush, they tried using yarn and even by blowing across paper. The latter, of course, has been put on hold during this pandemic. To help students engage, we facilitated discussions to help students make meaningful personal connections with the work of artists they were learning about. For example, while viewing a series of paintings by Mark Rothko, a slide with guiding questions helps students actively think about and discuss their personal responses. To allow students to then execute their ideas and visions, we introduce independent art projects, providing support where needed. Here you see two students from the same group, but each one executing her own unique interpretation of a Matisse-inspired stained glass art. And finally, we expand on the cumulative experiences by guiding students to reflect and share about their artwork and process. Here is an example of a slide with prompts to guide reflection and sharing during an artist conference at the end of the lesson. To help equip teachers who would be supporting in the art lessons, I facilitated a workshop prior to the start of the 2020 school year to share learning objectives and strategies through experiential activities. We also maintain open communication throughout the school year, where teachers could feel free to exchange observations of student learning, as well as any ideas and feedback for improvement in implementation. Next, how did we go about assessing students' learning during art lessons? First, we periodically record observations of students on our individual continual assessment record document, which has been aligned with the learning objectives in the Visual Arts TLS. We also keep a digital archive of students' artwork to review and track progress. Informally, our conversations with students during art lessons also allow us to glean insights into how they've grown as artists. Under the Visual Arts TLS, learning objectives are categorized under communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. Let me share some examples of how we determine if students were able to achieve some of these objectives in our first unit. One of the communication objectives in this particular lesson, Lesson 5, was for students to make informed links between the use of visual qualities and ideas or emotions, and explain why the visual qualities were chosen. We observed students demonstrating this when they use colors to convey different emotions in response to the emotion prompt on the other side of the paper, as well as explain the choice they have made. To scaffold this process, students who struggled to execute independently were provided with more samples to refer to, and then guided to incorporate their own ideas. In this lesson, Lesson 2, one of the objectives identified was for students to experiment with alternative ways to use materials and tools to make art. Here, we had students experiment with different ways to create lines in their work: painting, dripping, blowing, using various media. One scaffold for students who demonstrate rigidity would be to allow them to go with their preferences, while the teacher gradually offers choices and suggestions to incorporate new elements. During this lesson, Lesson 5, we observed a critical thinking objective during students' participation in group discussions, during which they observed and compared various Rothko paintings. This allowed students to develop skills of interpreting, analyzing, and synthesizing an artwork through exploring similarities and differences of various visual qualities, like elements of art and principles of design. As not all students are equally proficient in comparing different visual qualities, some could focus on identifying basic elements, while the teacher or peers contribute by drawing connections or making the comparisons. To assess the collaboration objective of sharing about art-making processes and intentions, the artists' conferences have been particularly fruitful. We observe students taking turns to share about their own work and process, and offering comments and appreciation to their peers. To assess another collaboration objective of demonstrating ability to work together, We also designed opportunities for collaborative art. We began with simpler forms of collaborative art, such as this example, where all students worked separately but contributed to one giant collage of a thankfulness tree. Eventually, we transitioned to projects that required more collective decision-making and planning. In conclusion, of the new aspects within the Visual Arts TLS, what I found most critical to include was learning objectives that spanned various aspects: communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. Personally, it helps me to be conscious of designing and facilitating art lessons that are purposeful, meaningful, and holistic. To borrow the words of artist Juan Miro, more important than a work of art itself is what it will sow. Art can die, a painting can disappear. What counts is the seed. I think this is true of the viewer, but also of the artist behind the work. When we plan art lessons with the students' holistic growth in mind, it becomes so much more than the product that gets put up on display, but the rich process behind the scenes. With that, I've come to the end of this sharing. Thank you, and I hope you'll be able to take away an insight or two for your respective programs.
Thank you, Yvonne and Karen, for your thoughtful sharing. Together with the earlier presentations by Melissa, Michelle, and Yuan Ping, I'm sure schools will have much to work with and think about. We hope today's presentations have made you more excited about the VA and DLS syllabuses. We would like to encourage all SPED teachers to view the hard copy or the e-syllabuses. Do also remember to download and share the VA and DLS stickers. In line with the syllabus launch, there will be a series of micro-learning units released in August and September this year. You may visit the SPED Facebook page for more information. We have now come to the end of our syllabus launch. Thank you again for being with us this afternoon. On behalf of the Special Education Branch, we would like to take this opportunity to thank all the SPED schools, principals and teachers, members of MOE senior management, EXCO members from the social service agencies that lead our SPED schools, the National Institute of Education, and all other partners, parents, and educator friends. We're truly thankful for your continuous contribution to the progress of SPED. Keep well, stay safe, and thank you.